Hey everybody, it's Lydia here with True and Unpolished, and you are about to listen to another edition of Mary's Peeps. And today we talk to Jim Dukes, and Jim is a former defense contractor who worked with the United Nations, and he experienced several traumatic brain injuries, and those injuries left him feeling really lost and hopeless. And he discovered a healing journey through the process of art. He is a really intuitive and instinctual guy who has a great story to tell. So take a listen, and I will just give a gentle warning that there is one curse word in today's episode. So maybe don't listen with kiddos around. So take a listen, take a look. Here we go.
Welcome to True and Unpolished, the podcast, a Cuss Culture production. Through this podcast, our intention is to uplift, inspire, and amuse.
Let's get authentic. Okay, Jim Dukes, tell us your story. Tell us something about you.
Well, let's see. So to clarify, I was so I spent 4 years as a defense contractor.
Okay.
In Iraq, disarming bombs and clearing minefields, and have had 5 traumatic brain injuries, 2 from blast injuries. My degree was in civil engineering, and so in 2013, 2012, my fifth traumatic brain injury, and it left me blind in my right eye and deaf in my right ear, and had to learn to walk and talk and read again, and had a total life restart. And prior to that, had started got sober 14 years ago, and got into therapy and started dealing with all my stuff, and was really had a life restart. I have a son at the time, and my last head injury ended a marriage, and so
Wow.
it caused me to move in to my childhood home, which I swore I'd never go back to.
Wow.
40 years old, and live with my mom. And my therapist at the time was like, so what the hell are you going to do with your life?
Yeah.
And I really had to make a decision. Was I going to be a man with a disability or a disabled man? And those are 2 different life paths,
Okay, but can I just have to. Okay, so say that again. You had 2 choices. What were they?
Was I going to be a man with a disability or a disabled man?
And can you tell me what the difference is between those 2 things?
Yep. A man with a disability is, or a woman, a person with a disability, in my case, a man, is continuing on with my life, something with purpose.
Yeah.
Because I had lost all this technical analytical stuff in my left brain that didn't work anymore.
Wow.
And I couldn't do numbers. I needed a list of reminders to like what I had to do in the morning in the bathroom.
Right.
And so everything changed. So was I going to make something of myself and be defined by something new, or be defined by my disability?
Oh, wow.
And be a man? Like,
Yeah.
how am I gonna? Hi, I'm disabled, but my name is Jim Dukes. Or hi, I'm the director of Charlotte Art League, and I'm a photographer, but I also happen to be disabled. Whatever.
Yeah. Right.
And so, I wanted that to be the secondary, 3rd level tier thing. I wanted to get on with my life, and I knew I had a young son looking at me for inspiration, and how was I going to overcome adversity? And I didn't want to let him down. And so my therapist sent me this link one night to a concert. It was a fundraiser for um, a the Bob Woodruff Foundation,
Mhm.
and there were the bass player from Pink Floyd went to Walter Reed Medical Hospital, and he took 10 veterans or I guess about 20, taught 10 of them to play guitar and 10 of them to sing, and they were up on stage
Oh, wow.
in front of a live audience, and some in wheelchairs, some other injuries, and they were playing guitar and singing, and she said, "You need to watch this."
Mhm.
And so it was the first time I saw men that I could relate to that had been through
Yeah.
similar experiences that I had, and they had turned to a creative outlet and
Mm.
bonded together through that creative outlet. And so I sat there, just tears running down my face, watching this whole thing as they sang 4 songs, and ended with this extremely powerful rendition um, of "Wide River to Cross."
Yeah.
And so after that, I turned it off, and I took stock, and I was like, well, I can't sing or dance or play. I mean, I realized that my right brain was really blossoming. The left brain I was having struggles with. So
Right.
I I I literally, like, I can't sing or dance or play an instrument, but I had a cell phone and it had a camera, so I just started taking pictures and
Mm.
realized that it was a way to rewire neural pathways in my
Yes.
brain. So it was a physiological fix, but it was an emotional fix in that I'm used to seeing all the things in the world around me that could kill me, tripwires and pressure plates, things like that.
Yes.
But it allowed me to retrain my brain to see the beauty in the world around me
Wow.
through a different lens. And so it was weird. I started taking pictures of inanimate objects because I was scared to be around people. I was scared to interact with people because I wasn't the same as I used to be. I wasn't
Right.
the same person, and I couldn't get back to who that person was. And
Right.
so I started
So
doing a lot.
can
Huh?
I interrupt you for a second? Because
Sure.
that's really surprising to me because I met Jim at like after, well,
Mhm.
around this time when he first started on his own art as healing journey, or when he was
Yeah.
kind of right in the beginning of it. And he was so easy to talk to, and for me personally to relate to. And I know just from the work that he's done, a lot of people feel that way about you, Jim. So it's surprising to hear that you were afraid to be around people.
Well, yeah, it took me months and months to get comfortable with that. So by the time I made it to Columbia to do my residency, by the time we met, I
Right.
had, I had, it took me time to get over the embarrassment of, like, I didn't walk right anymore, and I was still, I had
Yeah.
Mhm.
trouble seeing, and my mood was off, and I had social anxiety issues, and how was I dealing with all this stuff? And it was
Yeah.
just, I was still walking with a cane. And um, so by the time I made it to Columbia, I had ditched the cane, and I was still having supervised. My family would come down when my son would visit, and they would stay with me to help me take care of him because I still needed help with that.
Right. Right.
So it was a good transition time. So I was invited down to do a residency in Columbia to for our first exhibit, my first exhibit, and it was a couple of months, and it was the art of healing, and it
Mm.
was where I was supposed to be the featured artist and do 40 pieces for the exhibit, and
Wow.
um, do healing art work with the community and start healing art workshops at the art center there. And that's how Mary and I met. And
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I was
And
the
so,
president of the South Carolina Association of Art Therapists at the time.
Okay.
And so I organized the exhibit on our end for the Art Therapy Association.
So
mhm.
I have a couple of questions. One that stood out to me is um, you said so here you were and you felt like a completely different person. You had social anxiety. You didn't have all the cognitive function that you had before, which is usually how we define ourselves almost, is the way that we think, right? Is what makes us us. So here you are. You've been wounded and traumatized. And you said, I had to make the decision. The therapist said to you, okay, you're going to make this decision. And the decision is, I think what I heard you say is essentially, are you going to go on with life and have, being disabled be a part of your story and a part of who you are, but not the totality of who you are? Or are you just going to give up? And you made mention of your son and
Right.
that you knew that you had this son looking at you. And so I wonder, have you ever contemplated or thought about, would your decision have been different if you hadn't had a son? Like, was he kind of so? And I'm asking this question because I recognize that through my own healing journey, at the parts that are the most trying and the most hard, and in particular I'm going through one right now where just new awarenesses about things from the past. In my hardest moments, I think I've got these two boys and I want to model for them, love. So in my hardest moments, if I can't do it for me, I can do it for them. Like, would you say that this decision, in part, you kind of owe it to him, you taking on this new life?
Right, right, absolutely. I mean, he's the reason I'm alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I feel
there,
that way too. Yeah.
there are times. I mean, I attempted suicide twice right after I got sober, and
Wow.
um, there are. Um, I continue to struggle with that,
Right.
um, and I think that knowing that he's in my life is the thing that keeps me going,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
um, probably if he
Yeah.
wasn't here, I mean, I would struggle to find the the reason to live.
Right. Or
And
because it takes so much courage to heal, So, I mean, so
the
it,
hardest thing I've ever done.
yeah,
Well, I have
yeah,
a question because, as I'm listening, and I've worked with people who struggle with suicidal urges, and but so my question is, what do you say to people who struggle with that, who do not have children? Because I do think that is definitely a factor for people to hold on to. But
yeah.
have you found a reason to live outside of your son? And how do you, when you come across people, and I know you're not doing that now, but in the recent past, Jim was working as the healing arts director at the Big Red Barn Retreat, which provides free services to veterans, and where
Ah, what a cool thing. What a cool thing.
yeah. So my question is, what do you say to people who struggle with that and they don't have children, or they don't have,
So
a healthy relationship with their children?
right, and I always try to work with them to find what it is that they do enjoy that's
Yeah.
healthy.
Right, right,
And
right.
I mean, I do that too. I keep reminding myself that I can go take pictures, I can do art, I can
Yeah.
make an abstract piece, I can wake up from a nightmare and make something, I can journal, I can reach out to a friend, I can. There's multitudes of things I can do. They're not as prevalent in the moment to me,
Mm-hmm.
but
Like,
they're there.
do you mean if you're in the middle of a crisis, in the middle
Yes.
of a pain?
Of
Yeah.
darkness.
It's
Yeah.
it's I call it emotional amnesia. We forget
Yep.
because our emotions become so big, we forget that we've ever felt okay before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You're
Right.
just,
You're just in that pain, and it's heavy and unbearable, and um, you're just struggling to make it through the day,
yeah. You're kind of
existing.
one with the pain. Like there is
Mhm.
no you. There's just like you have literally merged with the pain. I completely relate to
Mhm.
that experience.
Yep.
And that is so what happened then is you told the story of watching this video.
Mhm.
And so something in this video uh, touched something within you,
Mhm.
and you went, oh, creative expression. Like, can you walk me through what happened to you? Because you're crying, you're watching the video.
Mhm.
Like, what was the aha for you?
It was literally seeing all of the men there on stage, not afraid to be vulnerable and imperfect,
Oh,
and
right.
expressing themselves,
Yes.
um, and expressing and finding unity together and brotherhood together in injury.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had been isolated. I hadn't
Sure.
found a group. I hadn't found a collective.
Yeah.
And so I was just, other than my therapist and family, but um, I felt like if I went on this journey, if I could help at least one person, I would have succeeded, and that was my literal goal, was just to
Yeah.
help one person.
Yeah.
And so um, just started taking pictures and just seeing and reflecting on my life and experiences, but it's interesting that how things have switched, in that I volunteer with Mental Health America, the Mid Carolinas here in Charlotte,
Hmm.
and I'm a guest speaker. And so we do coffee and conversations once a month, where we people can come in and they can learn about the nonprofit and the services they provide. And then we have guest speakers that talk about their journey with mental health, and I'm one of them. And a woman showed up one day, and I told my story. You have 5 minutes to tell your story, and I talked about PTSD, and um, then talked to her afterwards. Not really connected, but then a couple months later, I did a big multi-county talk on where I was the featured speaker for a governmental task force on mental health. And afterwards, I was kind of walking through the crowd, and there was a woman there that saw me talk at this coffee and conversation, and she was there with her husband.
Hmm.
Jim Long is his name, and
Hmm.
he said, he introduced himself, and he said, I just want to let you know that the reason I'm here today is because of you. And
Wow.
I'm 6 months after my suicide attempt, and today's the first day I got off the couch and came out of the house after that, because I wanted to come see you talk. And
Wow.
my wife asked me to come see you talk. And
Yeah.
um, so so here I was several years ago at my bottom, getting inspiration from other people, and
Hmm.
then had this opportunity to inspire him. So he's gone on to write poetry and delivers poetry at our open mic events, and talks about shock treatment, and he's
Yeah.
just totally raw with expressing his emotions, and
See, and that so our decision to heal, and so for everyone, Jim Long, there are probably 50 that you'll never meet, that will never shake your hand. You'll never know that your decision to heal and to be vulnerable and to talk about it, has helped countless people that you don't even know about. And what strikes me, Jim, is that I have my father was a Green Beret in Vietnam, and by the time, he passed away, he had not left the house in over 5 years. And I was home with him. My mom went to work, and my sister was 6.5 years older than I. So it was just he and I, and he suffered greatly from PTSD, had a brain aneurysm when I was about 5. Like he was doing lobbying for Veterans Affairs, and then, you know, you know, some something happened, and he just wasn't able to do it. He wasn't able to rejoin life, and so, the totality of my father's life while I was alive was, you know, living room chair to dining room, kitchen chair to bed. And it was this, those were the 3 places that he went. And he didn't have that. He wasn't able to find within himself something that allowed him to rejoin the world. And I think in part it's different. Wouldn't you say that veterans now, there's a different way of supporting veterans now than in his time, specifically around Vietnam? There was so much, I think, around that war.
Yeah, Mary, you had your hand up before I answer.
Oh no, go ahead. I'll
Okay.
I'll ask it after you answer
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So I taught at the Big Red Barn a Vietnam veterans couples class,
Okay.
and was fascinating. And then we taught, we met several times, but there was a couple, I had this whole, and it was facilitated by their group therapist. So
Okay.
the guys said, we're really fucked up. I mean, we're really messed up and we need to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And so they went and they worked with their therapist, and then the therapist worked with their spouses, and then the spouse brought them together with me, and we did stuff together, art therapy,
Cool.
art projects together as couples. And so
You did art projects together. Okay,
yeah,
keep going, but I want to hear more about that. But go ahead.
yes. I had the very first one, I had this whole 2-hour thing planned out, and this one couple didn't pay one bit of attention to me, and he just went, and he went up and he got a canvas and some paint, and he went and sat down, and she got a magazine, and she sat down next to him, and they sat at a table by themselves, and he just started painting for about 45 minutes while he got everybody going. And they would lean into each other and they would talk, and then he would paint, and then they would lean in and talk, and back and forth for a while. And so after everybody was going, I went and sat down and talked to him. And it turns out they got married right the day before he shipped off to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he survived Hamburger Hill, which,
Yeah.
if you are up on your Vietnam war battles, that was one of the bloodiest battles in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So he said, I've been a welder and a wrench turner my whole life, and this is the most peace I've felt ever. And all he was doing, just from memory, was painting leaves and flowers on his canvas and talking to his wife, and they were just back and forth talking, and they weren't following any directions. They weren't doing anything.
Like there was no process. It was just expression.
They were connecting, and he was just drawing on positive experiences from inside himself. And so that's every time they come, that's what he would do. And as long as they were talking and he was expressing and getting things out, so to answer your question, I think that there are more opportunities for veterans, especially Vietnam. I think older veterans are taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there to heal.
I just started an art therapy group, and I have a veteran who is in his 80s that
wow.
in the group.
See, and my dad would be in his 80s. If he was still alive, he would be in his 80s. He passed away 5 years ago. But yeah, and I just wonder what could have been different for him, because as a child, I desperately wanted to help. And I was a child, I didn't know how, but when hearing your story and hearing you talk, I think, wow, I wonder what could have been different if he just had a canvas, like if you just handed him an art, like a journal and some colored pencils and said here, because he did crosswords. Like it was all he just that's it. It was just crosswords and TV and coffee and one chair to the next chair to the next chair. And so
So,
your process when you go ahead, Mary.
well, I'm going to change the subject because I really want Jim to talk a little bit about something. One of the I think one of the really cool things about Jim is he always gets these amazing opportunities.
I know. I was gonna say, yeah.
And so and this is one of my favorite things to talk about, how life gives us what we need if we're just willing to pay attention.
Yeah.
And it's also following inspiration, following guidance, following like synchronicities that happen. So my question for you, Jim, is how do you do that? I mean, like, can you share with us anything about how that happens for you?
Yeah, because I'm picturing you watching the show, right? You know, your therapist sends you the show, you watch it, you're moved to tears, you get the inspiration. Okay, I'll take pictures. But then all of a sudden, like what you've told me is like one thing after another, like, oh, and then I spoke at this, and then I, ran this retreat at this other place. And so it seems like you've just had one opportunity after, like life. It's almost like you said yes to healing. Yes, I'm willing. And then life went, okay, here's a platform. Here's another one. Here's another one. What's been your experience of that?
Yeah, I listen to the universe more now than I used to. I guess I used to be, I don't know, more arrogant and egotistical.
Mm-hmm. And
And
see, when I hear you say, listen, I think what I'm hearing you say is I trust the universe. Like I trust what it brings me. I trust. Is that true?
well, no, I get scared.
I love it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Well, not
but the
always.
but no,
Not
there
always,
is
but
trust because if any of our staff and board of directors is listening, I just I just know what's going to work, and
Right.
I don't know why, but I just do, and
Yeah.
I feel it, and then I'm like, okay, let's just do it, and then I I know that we're going to be able to do this, and let's just do this, and I know that I need to answer this call or pursue this or this will happen, and I'll say, I feel that in my gut, I'm going to respond
Yes.
and
Yes.
follow that, and then I know that this is the right thing to do. Other people
Yes.
may feel like this is ridiculously stupid, but
Yes.
I know it's right, and I think that one, I don't like rules, and and I like to just completely throw out any logic and start there, and
And go with instinct and intuition. Yeah.
and then make sense of it all, and say yeah, but also we have um, I have learned through nearly dying several times, we have finite number of minutes on this earth,
Right.
and we really don't know when those are going to tick off and when you're going to get to that last one, and why not just say yes and go for it, and
Yeah. That's awesome. And
I was just gonna say, because we're talking about wanting to die earlier, and now we've kind of come back around and having this appreciation for the magnificence of life. And I think
right.
we a lot of us feel this way, and I think especially right now in the current condition of where we are, a lot of us feel that way. And so I think we all need a reminder, when we feel down, we feel like hopeless, that we're going to feel better again,
Right, right. That it will
so
pass. Yeah, yeah. And I think that is a great place to kind of wrap up, because what you just shared is, well, you shared a lot of, and I think that it's really important, like the key takeaways that I have from this and from the story and a little bit of this of your story that you've shared is that you were able to embrace art as a healing process, and probably in no small part to the fact that, the cognitive part, that the traumatic injury happened on that linear thinking part of the brain, and so you were able to open up to this more intuitive, to the artistic part that is in all of us, right? And so I think that one of my takeaways is the recognition that, there is no darkness that can't be in some way addressed or shifted in part through the process of art. And, and so there's purpose when I sit down and make my mandalas. And Mary's had to teach me that, because I'm I'm a words girl, I'm a logic girl, I'm a read the book girl. Give me a list and I'll tick off the boxes, and that's how I'll get fixed. And, I really love that your story helps us to see that there is so much that can be gained through the expression of art, and being imperfect. Because I heard you say that one of the things that you saw in these men who were picking up the guitars, it's not necessarily that they've been playing guitars their whole life, right?
No.
So they were willing to try something and willing to be bad at it,
right.
For the sake of healing, for the sake of, doing something outside of the box. So yay.
Right.
Jim, it has been so amazing having you on. And is there a resource or somewhere that we can direct people to find you or any of the nonprofits that you're passionate about?
Yeah, you can reach me through charlotteartleague.org.
Okay.
And my bio and email is in there. And
wonderful. Awesome. So attention veterans, Charlotte Art League, and not just veterans. I'm sure that you can help anybody, but I my wish, in part because of my father, is that there will be a veteran that is hearing these words and will reach out to you, and that you might be able to provide them with some resources and some more hope and more inspiration. So thank you so much for being on today. Mary, girlfriend, as always, your peeps, they just keep getting better and better. I know. Better and better. You've been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next.
If you or someone you know are struggling with suicidal thoughts or hopelessness, please know that you're not alone. You can reach out and text HOME to 741-741 or call 1-800-273-8255 to get free support. You can also join our Create More Peace Facebook group. It's a free group where we also offer support, coping skills, mindfulness tips, and creative prompts to help you create more peace in your life.